Hi everyone, I'm Diego, and I'm here today to talk about the articles in the German language. I think that every foreigner, as I am, as a Brazilian, struggles with this part, mainly because a lot of Latin languages we just have masculine and feminine, and in English there is just the neutral, and in German they have the three options. So I think there's a lot of easier ways to talk about it rather than it's usually shown on the internet. We can easily Google and show websites like that with 30 options. Like how can we know what's the difference? Or shows completely with some examples how you should do and all the endings that has either masculine, feminine, or neutral, and all these crazy tables with different colors and different ways and to try to make everyone learn it. But I think in the end it just make it harder. Um, I like to think in a way more logical way. So for example, we can have this good example here. The nominative, accusative, dative, and genitive. Of course, the first point is to understand what each one of those are, and to understand that depending on which one you're talking, you should use almost always a different declination. Declination is the change of the article, and mainly that we have the masculine, feminine, neutral, and the plural. Those forms are here available, and this is a really good example: men, women, and kind, and the plural of the three. We could you see that the masculine, the nominative from men is der Mann, which is pretty easy if you think, okay, the man is der Mann. The woman is die Frau. The child is das Kind. But how do you know that child is das? If you think about a kid very, very small, it's hard to say if it's masculine or if the boy or the girl. So if you don't know it's a masculine, feminine, it's a neutral. So that's the kind of thing that I like to put in my head, so I know that the kid is das Kind and the plural form. And when we change from masculine to in nominative to accusative, change from der to den. But and this change, if you think about der Mann and den Mann, we need to think the sound. Oh, it's changed that from der to den. Okay, let's just think about the sounds now. It changed from a man, to einen Mann. And they're like, oh, der to den, there is an N now in the end. And ein to einen, there's an N again in the end. Und kein to keinen, also an N. So you think, okay, always when it's accusative, I need to have this N in my head, masculine. Perfect. The feminine, die Frau, accusative, die Frau, is the same. Eine Frau, keine Frau, keine Frau. So the feminine in in accusative and in nominative, you always think it's the same. And later, you don't need to remember that the accusative is die, eine, keine. You need to remember the accusative same as nominative. And the same happens to the neutral. Das Kind, ein Kind, ein Kind. Kein Kind, kein Kind. And that's very important. So you just think, oh, accusative, just the masculine change to what? To this N in the end. Dative is more interesting. Dative is not dem, but dem. You close your mouth, dem. Einem, keinem. So I think, oh, if I have a man, I'm man. If I talking to a man, einen Mann. If I giving a man something, is einem Mann. So in the dative verbs, that a lot of giving, um, this idea that is doing something to someone. This to someone is the dative, and then you think, oh, if it's to someone, I already need to think about this einem, because you know that the der is going to turn to them, or the ein is going to turn to einem. So you always just think about the m, not the n. So just think about the end. Don't need to think about the de or einen or keinen. So the woman, I'm giving something to a woman. Ich gebe der Frau. So like, wait, the woman just turned into a man? Yes, that's what I think. I think that the woman turned to a man. Die Frau turned to der Frau. And that's the easiest I can think of. So I don't get confused. I don't need to remember, oh, men in nominative and women in dative are the same. No, that's too much rules. You think woman turned to a man, feminine turned to masculine. In the dative, when you're giving someone, the person like, woof, I changed. And that's the same with, but in the dative, the ein is not exactly like the masculine. Therefore, I don't like to think that the dative is the same as nominative for the for all the articles. I think, okay, turns to a man, der Frau. Oh, if it's der, is er in the end. So it's einer too, or keiner. So I like to think at the end, and that turns to a man. So I remember the er, and I remember everything. The end is er. And kid is exactly the same as masculine. So in the dative from neutral, it's like the dative from masculine. So I think also it turns like a man. Create like, oh, you're giving some like neutral something that it's turned to a man too, like, oh, dem Kind, einem Kind, and keinem Kind. I think that's a nice way of thinking it. For the genitive, I also like to think in different ways. I'm going to start first with the feminine because it's exactly the same as the dative. So easy. Also in the genitive, if some woman's something that's from a woman, is like der Frau. Is something's from the woman. Instead of using from the, you say der Frau. And the man and the masculine, the neutral, as we just remember, okay, in dative, they are the same. In genitive, they are also the same. So like, oh, masculine and neutral in dative are the same, and in genitive are also the same. So just need to remember one. And what it is. Like in English, like Diego's video and John's head, this ES that we have in English, we also have in German for names, but here is the S, and also in the word that you're using also needs to have this ES. If I say the men's cell phone is des Mannes Handy, or the Handy des Mannes, the cell phone from the man. And you're like, how do I know that? Oh, I know that it's this ES, and also put the ES in the name. So ES, des Mannes, eines Mannes, keines Mannes. So I'll remember the ES. And the neutral has this. The neutral has the das. So like, oh, das Kind, des Kindes, eines Kindes. So that's how I make the connections between the similarities. Instead of remember everything, I always do, okay, if I'm doing, how does it sound? I like to put the sound too. I think like, okay, this Frau is, I don't like this. So I like, oh, der Frau, because it's turning, and this Mannes und des Kindes. For the plural, there's a lot of ways of thinking. I like to think without just the article, the man, everything turned to woman. Everything turns, the plural is everything die or keine. die Männer, die Frauen, die Kinder. So, because they are a bunch, and I like, oh, they are a bunch, they are together, so they are women now. And why there is no eine Frauen? Makes no sense for have eight women, eight childrens. It doesn't. It's impossible to have one and have a plural because that's impossible. It's impossible to have no men, no women. That you don't have a lot of people, a plural, but you cannot have just one. Therefore, is are the dots here. For the plural, nominative and accusative are the same. Remember that Ted told that they are like the women, the feminine. So the feminine is the same nominative, accusative. The same happens with the plural in the nominative and accusative. So as I told you, if you think about a woman, and then you're going to remember that the accusative form is also like that. To the dative form, you always remember that always change. But if the dative of plural would be also, it couldn't be the same as neutral and masculine because it would make no sense. It's a plural. So it couldn't be exactly the same as feminine, otherwise you would just have feminine, right? So when you think, oh, it's a little bit different, how would be? It's like there is this en. I don't like to think that it's accusative because it's different en. This en goes also to the names. So it's like, that's how I know that it's different. Because if it would be like the accusative, that would make there no sense to have. You giving something to a lot of people and would be the same as doing something to a man. That make no sense. So I rather think about the en everywhere. Den Männer, den Frauen, den Kindern. I'm giving something to the kids. So like, oh, it's a lot of things. Let's put this en a name there. So every word needs the n extra n, sometimes en, in the end. So you know that, oh, den and en, that's plural. I think the opposite way. Plural, I need this n because I'm saying then. And the dative, the genitive, sorry, it's we don't add anything and it's always there, like the female one. Der Männer, Tag der Männer, Tag der Frauen. It's from the women. So you connect to the idea of feminine and genitive, and so you think like, okay, that's how it works. That's a very basic explanation, and but I like to think always connect the ideas of masculine and feminine instead of reading. Der, die, das, die, den, die, I don't even know. Remember, like talking about the sequence because for me it makes no sense. Or I also don't like music. Die, der, das, den. I also don't like this. I rather understand and try to create logic in my brain how they work instead of writing down 1 million times. It's more important to think how they work and also to use. If you don't have someone to practice, you can always just write it down in your head doing situations. If you see some woman in the street or some poor guy in the street and you have a sandwich and the only thing I'm gonna give, then man, mine sandwich. So then you're already learning and using. Hope you guys like it and see you soon. Bye.